What is up? It's Hazed with Freedom Gaming here just to run through some of the day two, not the results, but day two decks from DLC Seattle. I just, saw some really, really spicy decks and have some major FOMO, so I figured why not jump on a quick video and go through some of my thoughts on what I saw. First, I just want to speak about the meta as a whole for what made it to top 64. You can see here on the right side, we got 16 Ruby Sapphire, 24% of the 64, 23% Emerald Steel, 20% Ruby Amethyst, 16% Amber Steel. The spicy one I may have mentioned in our last podcast, Sapphire still making a pretty good showing here with 5 decks in top 64, and then Green Purple, which I kind of thought would have had one more of a showing and two more of a showing in day two, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. But wait till you see some of the decks that made it over. And then a couple of rogue decks that also made it in Hyper Aggro. I wouldn't really say rogue. Amethyst Steel, and I have all these pulled up as well. So what I decided to do was kind of grab each deck of these color pairings that placed the highest, and then I grabbed a couple other ones that I thought were not worth talking. They're all worth talking about. I mean, getting day two in a DLC is a major accomplishment, but some that really piqued my interest that were a little different than your normal, right? So first one I'll start with is Hamza Khan, and again I apologize guys if I mess up the names of some of you. I'm not the best at reading. But anyways, here we got a red blue list. Ruby Sapphire, 72 cards. What a legend! 72 cards. So he said, "Why cut the deck when you can just put all the cards you want in it?" Chicha would really help that because you get that early draw, and then with Flaversham you can also find your card draw, and then with cards like Vision of the Future, you get to look at the top 5 cards and find exactly what you need. Even with 72 cards, Hamza chose to only play 2 Be Prepared. Obviously worked very well for him. I think he was number 1 at the start of day 2 here, so he had the best Swiss results for the day. Pretty normal item package that you would see in a red-blue deck. Greystone Dragon, 2, and then 3 Quill. That's pretty, I would say pretty, I don't want to say stock, but it isn't outside of what you would typically see. McDuck Manor, however, is probably part of a new trend. I haven't seen it too often, but it is starting to show up, and this is pretty spicy. It helps against the red-blue decks after they use their B prep. You can throw one of those down if they do have to prep your board. So that's pretty cool red-blue list by Hamza, and again, 72 cards. Quite the accomplishment there. Kendall Burdett, the highest red-purple player result, who I believe is one of the best red-purple players as well. He has been on this color combination, I believe, since the beginning. I don't know if he did play something else at the start of set 1, but I only know him as a red-purple player. I think most of you guys probably only know him as a red-purple player. But this list is pretty stock. For the most part, playing the 4 Elsas, which I think 4 Elsas is kind of stock now. I'm not as in tune with red purple as I used to be. Down to 6 1-drops, probably because he's on Finders Keepers now. So even though you want these to replace themselves, you still want to make sure you have a 1-drop early. 6 is, I feel like, fine. The other thing that I saw in here I wanted to talk about was the split of 2 and 2 ladies. I like this a lot personally because I don't think you ever want to only play one Tremaine. It's just you want to have that shift option to be able to shift it on one existing and then bounce it, which is incredible tempo and board control. It's one of my favorite interactions in red purple, to be honest with you. Getting rid of a threat and then bouncing it and have a way to kill 2 more threats that get played. I have to eat crow on this one. Finders Keepers. I was not very impressed with this card at all. I didn't think it was very good. I'm seeing more and more red-purple players playing it now, so they know more than me, so I have to just say I was wrong. I still do not think it's good in Blurple, sidebar, just because Blurple doesn't have the availability to take a turn off and just draw 3 cards without playing anything to board, where in red-purple, you can play this and find one of your Be Prepareds to be able to answer whatever your opponent does on their turn with that 5 ink. So that it makes more sense than a red-purple deck. I don't see it in a Blurple deck, but yeah, I think this was pretty common across the board. At least people were playing 2, some are not playing any, some playing 3, I want to say I saw a couple like that. But yeah, this is Kendall or No I'm Nuts red purple list for Seattle. The next one I wanted to talk about was Moyne. Moyne is an incredible player, and I don't think he needs much of an introduction to be talked about. But this list, Blue Steel, he decided to pick instead of it's typically a Ruby Sapphire player. So to go to Sapphire Steel is quite a choice, and obviously paid off well for him. I think he was third in Swiss standings. This list is awesome. I haven't really messed with Sapphire Steel. I haven't played it enough at all, but this makes me want to play Sapphire Steel. The inclusion of Simba, Fighting Prince on the top end, still having the Hades, the aerials to close games out, Tinkerbells. The one thing you may notice that is missing from this list next to songs is there is no Whole New World. So just relying on the items, Tamatoa, Flaversham, and the Chicha draw engine. Again, I named a few options there that'll draw cards. So this list is very, very cool. I'd really like to try it. I wouldn't be surprised if Moyne makes a deep run in day 2 of Seattle. Aubrey Perry is the green-purple list that we have, so the highest placing green-purple list. Again, I thought there was going to be more green-purple, to be honest with you. I think it's a very good deck into any purple deck. I used to think Blurple beat it, but I'm not so sure anymore with some of the changes they've made. A lot of people locally around me play it as well, so I'm used to playing against it. The Merfolk is, I've seen some lists cutting it, but Aubrey choosing to stay with Merfolk, which obviously paid off. Bonsai 4 of that early aggressive package, so to be able to go Merfolk into Bonsai, even though those are 2 uninkables, that's against a red-blue opponent, that is terrifying for them, because that is very difficult for them to keep up with that lore every turn. I do not see any Lyles in this list, so that is pretty interesting as well. No Lyles. So they're just trying to turn and burn pretty much with that, which I like. I like the 4 Elsas. This card is just so good. Elsa's so good. Clarabelle, obviously, to refill as you play all those threats out. Something I'm noticing, too, with green-purple, since you're leaning on that Clarabelle package, you'll notice they don't play as many of the 1-drops that refill or replace themselves, so less. They're still playing some Chernobyls, but not on the 4 ofs and none of the brooms. You're better off just emptying your hand and playing that Clarabelle sometimes on 5 with the shift target, so it makes a lot of sense. I do also like Emerald Chromacon and Queen's Castle. This is just a very good green-purple list, so congrats making day 2 Aubrey. Steel Songs. This was the highest Steel Song placing list, and there was a few things in this list that I thought were very interesting. 61 cards, so actually both Aubrey and Scott were on 61 cards. Moyne stayed on 60. I kind of glossed over all that. Kendall also stayed on 60. So Scott had a couple of techs that I like a lot. So Kita, the bodyguard Kita is interesting. It's Simba from those of you that played in set 1, but it's Simba with a shift target on curve. So you could go 2 and then 3, which that's pretty awesome. Blue, I think, is very good against red-blue specifically to get that extra reach that sometimes Steel Song can use. Lawrence is a great card against purple and really any steel decks, because if they try to do any kind of board wipe, a lot of the time it's going to leave you a target for Rapunzel to heal it up. I mean, steel removal wise, I'm not talking like pre-prepared board wipes. Obviously, Lawrence would die. But that's a pretty cool tech. I don't see as much Lawrence anymore. I think it's a very, very good card. A couple of Naveen's, which is good. Extra Singers. I just noticed there is no Ariel on this list. Wow. That's spicy. I'm just realizing this now as I'm looking through. I said, man, 2 Naveen. How did they have all the space for the tech? So they kept Ariel off this list. That is very, very interesting. I do think Sven is very good in Steel Song as well. Either double singing a song or protecting something that you want to quest with the following turn without having your opponent swing into it. So this is a very, very cool Steel Song list, and I do think it has some legs into a red-blue more than normal. Very, very, and Green Steel, because the Kita, like Green Steel would have a really hard time with Kita too. They already have low attacks as it is, but to be able to turn everything sideways. Very, very interesting. So congrats, Scott, on the day 2. The yellow-green list, and it wasn't your typical, I saw only one yellow-green made it to day 2. It wasn't your typical yellow-green discard. It was a yellow-green aggro. Turn and Burn. Again, we saw a few of these. So 60 card list by Gabriel here. Daisy Ducks, Lilos, Queen, Clarabelle. I mean, lots of one drops, lots and lots of one drops. Just trying to flood the board very quickly. Probably turn one play one card and turn two play two one drops into, you're just going from there. Probably never really getting to seven, just wanting to shift Clarabelle instead of ever casting it for seven. So you got multiple targets. You got the three drop Clarabelle and the one drop Clarabelle. Only two though, so six total targets to shift Clarabelle on. Chernobog's also very good in this because you're playing so many of these low cost cards. You may get a chance to just play Chernobog for free in some instances. Yeah, this is a aggro deck, a very very aggro deck. Your opponent can draw as many cards as they want. Like you don't even really have to worry about Diablo as much because you're just turning them sideways. Yeah, very interesting list. Yellow purple. So another aggro list. Something I noticed about this deck that was super interesting to me is they cut all the mims. So they aren't trying to bounce any of their stuff, which I like. I really like this thought process on the deck. You're playing the 2-drop Maleficent now instead of probably 2-drop Mim. I don't think that most yellow purple was on for Pinocchios. I think they're playing a couple. I really do like this. It's really, you're all in on your game plan of just turning sideways. You have a couple bodyguards to protect your high lore questers, and then you're drawing cards with things like Friends and Amethyst Chromacon. So super, super interesting list. I like this a lot. It really defines the game plan. So congrats to Chris Becker on making day 2. Now I got to talk about Chad. Chad is a local South Florida player, so not only did he day 2, he did it with some spice for sure. Again, on the Chicha package, like some of the other blue decks that we saw in day 2, this is pretty typical of Tipo, Sisu, Tala, Flowershan, Maui, Medusa, and then bam, Robin Hood. I don't know how many of you guys remember this card from set 1, but when this opponent, let me just pull it up here so you can actually read, because probably haven't seen it too often. When you play this character, if opponent has more cards in their hand than you, draw a card, and it also has evasive on your turn. So, really like that, probably for Diablo meta and things that are problems that you need to banish to take care of. So that was an interesting inclusion. So yeah, he was able to make day 2 with this list. I think he stayed at 60 cards. Yeah, 60 cards for Chad as well. Super, super interesting list, and hopefully Chad does pretty well on day 2. We'll all be cheering for him down in South Florida. Now these are all decks. The next 3 are ones that weren't the highest of their 2-color combination placing wise, but they're the highest in my heart because these lists are awesome. This Steel Song list, or I can't even call it Steel Song. Amber Steel location deck. This, I want to sleeve this up and play this. It is very cool. You're playing things like Fix It Felis to give all your locations extra health. Also drawing cards. Doc also draws you cards by refilling your hand after you've emptied it because you really don't have a lot of card draw outside of that. This list is very, very cool. I am a big fan. I could see how Alvaro was able to day 2 with this. So I want to try this. I was almost done with this set, ready to wait for set 6, but this one makes me want to sleeve up, and there's one other one that really makes me want to sleeve up a deck and go to locals with, but I very impressed by this list, Alvaro. Thanks for sharing this, and congrats on the day 2. Homero Sanchez, Purple Steel. I'm sorry, so this was actually one more list that I believe Homero was the only person that made top 64 with the Purple Steel deck. This was that Doc package. I've seen this pretty common. It was really common at the start of the set, and then it kind of took a back seat for a little bit because Steel Song was so prevalent. I think that was kind of a hard matchup for the deck. And now, obviously Homero was able to make day 2 with it. So this is a super cool list. Really just trying to dump your hand again. Use some of the bounce recursion to actually protect your cards. And sometimes, leaving that big body behind is a good effect as well. With a Doc, we have to be able to refill the hand. And then Library also, when they trade into your cards, you're able to still refill your hand. And it leaves an 8 health lore gain as well. Gathering Knowledge Wisdom also helps that reach to get across the finish line there. So congrats, Homero, and he's on 61 cards with his list. Last deck that I have here is a red purple burn deck. And this one, this is awesome. This deck, it's really just a burn deck. From those of you that played Magic, it just kind of cuts through. It doesn't has its game plan is just Pirate's Life, gathering knowledge, drawing cards, and ending the game. You have things like Super Goof to get to lore out of nowhere. Obviously, Goat does the same thing. So you're just kind of drawing cards, Flynn package, Sisu, and just burn. It's a burn deck. It's very cool. This is I could definitely see this having some surprise factor because you see red purple, you think, okay, I'm gonna have a long grindy game, but this deck is so much more mid range and lower to the floor to be able to end games quickly. I'm a big fan of this. This is a really cool package. Also, if I was gonna play red purple, this would be something I'd want to try. And only on 12 Uninkables is insane as well. I guess. Oh no rabbit. No rabbit here. That's interesting, but you don't need it because of Chromacon. Yeah, this is a really cool list. There was one more that I must have looked over. I'm actually gonna pull it up on this side because it's a green purple list. Sorry, just bear with me here. I have to pull this deck up because it is so awesome. Here we go. So cool. So an Emerald Amethyst, Sean Keaton. This list is so cool because it's playing Relentless Beast, it's playing Bell, and it's playing Mystical Rose. So Mystical Rose, see if I can zoom in on this. Mystical Rose, banish this item. Chosen character named Beast gets +2 lore per this turn. And if you have a character named Bell, move up to 3 damage counters from chosen character to chosen opposing character. So it's pretty much Bell's effect. With Beast out, Relentless Beast, if you give him 4 lore and you have ways to exert, like Elsa, like Pinocchio, Anna, so many ways to exert, right? Even Big Ursula could exert. This Beast could quest for 20 very easily, 5 attacks pretty much. 4 attacks, quest once and then attack 4 things and then it finishes it off. So the reach on this deck is super cool with the Mystical Rose. It's an idea I haven't explored, but man, I really want to now. This really grabbed my attention, so I would be looking at trying this deck out as well as the Amber Steel location deck myself. Really excited to watch the rest of the broadcast today. Again, I just saw the list, had some FOMO, and was like, man, I really would like to take a look at these lists more in detail and kind of talk about my thoughts. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Sorry, I know it's a little shorter and kind of out of nowhere, but let me know if you like videos like this where we do a little bit of a not deck tech, but deck talk, I guess you could say. Maybe we'll do some more content like that. But for now, that's it, guys. Take care. Thanks for your time.